What's this? A letter for me.
Welcome back to another episode of Remember the Great Sports through the Mail Thursdays. I'm going to share with you 4 more through the mail returns. This might be a mixed bag. I don't know who the people are that I'm getting back because I wrote a lot of basketball players recently. I wrote some football guys. And I also, as always, write baseball guys. So this might be a random of all 3 sports, all football guys, all baseball guys. So we're just going to jump right in here. And this first one is from Little Rock, Arkansas. Looks like I didn't get my plastic sleeve back. That's okay. And it looks like 1, 2, 3, and 4 from Mr. Aubrey Gatewood. And this is Mr. Gatewood's 3 copies of Mr. Gatewood's 1965 tops, right? 65 tops rookie card, also featuring Dick Simpson. Mr. Simpson, I believe, is a pretty decent through the mail signer as well. So these 3 most likely are going to be sent to Mr. Simpson. You know, I might only send 2 of them just in case I don't get them back. I really would hate to put all my eggs in one basket and lose them. So I might just send 2 of them out to Mr. Simpson to see if he signs them, and I guess if I lose them, I lose them, but that's just the way it goes sometimes with autographing through the mail. Very happy to add these to the collection, Mr. Gatewood. I picked these up in my vintage card show pickup at 50 cents a piece. I didn't pay much for these at all, so very happy to add these to my collection and get a couple more TTMs done. So thank you very much. Alright, we've got another one here from Michigan. Got one from Louisville, Kentucky, and one from Eugene, Oregon, and I almost am positive I know who those 2 are, so we're going to do the Michigan one next. And I think this one might be a tiger or a lion. Oh my. And it is. It's a former Detroit Lion. And that is former Detroit Lion quarterback Greg Landry on 1, 2, 3, and I believe I sent him a 4th and he kept it, but that's totally cool. I want to say it was a duplicate, but honestly I don't remember to be honest with you what the other 4th card was, which is okay, but it was from around this time period. It was 70s football, but if many of you watched the Detroit Lions back in the 70s and early 80s, you obviously know who this guy is. He was the leader of the pack, so to speak, for that team for many years. Let's see, 1968 to 1978, he was on the, excuse me, the Lions as their quarterback. Played college football at UMass. Don't know too many guys that played college football at UMass. I know some basketball players, but not too many football players out of there. And again, I'm not an NFL expert. There might be somebody out there that played at UMass. I'm just overlooking. But Landry had a pretty respectable career. He played at least 10, 11 years in the NFL, and for a Detroit Lions team that was pretty bad, that's the best way I can put it, that's pretty respectable. Whenever you don't have an offensive line blocking for you, it's pretty hard to survive in the NFL, especially during that time period in the NFL when you had the likes of some of the greatest defensive linebackers and such in that era coming at you. That's a pretty scary sight, knowing that some of those linebackers would go through your line and chase you around in the backfield, and you would basically be running for your life, if that was the situation. And the Lions were pretty poor team back in the 70s, and Landry was at the helm, unfortunately, with that team. So thank you, Mr. Landry. Very, very happy to add those to my collection. More than happy to give you a card if you needed one for your collection. So, all right, this next one is from Louisville, Kentucky, and I sent this care of his radio show. Didn't return the sleeves, and unfortunately it looks like they got shoved in the envelope a little too fast because that's a little smudged. But we'll give the guy a break. He's not a young man, so I'm happy to have it back. And that is 2 of 2 from Mr. Paul Hornung. And yeah, you can see the blue from that card on the back of this card. Unfortunately, they didn't dry, but this is a Hall of Famer, and I'll take him. It's better than not getting him back at all. But check out this card. Joe Montana, Joe Theismann, and Paul Hornung. I mean, wouldn't that be nice to complete? Now, I think Joe signed through the mail Theismann, but good luck trying to get Montana to sign that. That would be a pipe dream. But I talked about him in another video, but the University of Texas cards also have this set, this Upper Deck set. You can get these boxes relatively cheap. I think I paid $10 for the box. I opened it up and I did pull one autograph. It was nobody that I knew, so it wasn't, you know, Joe Montana or, you know, Jerome Bettis or Tim Brown or anybody like that. So I didn't know the autograph of the player that I pulled, and you know, very happy to add Paul Hornung to the collection. I sent this care of his radio show in Louisville. During the season, he does a radio show in Louisville, Talking Sports or whatever it's called, and I highly recommend, if you haven't had the opportunity to write Mr. Hornung, that you definitely get a couple in the mail to him, you know, care of the radio station, because this is one of the greatest NCAA players, and this is also one of the greatest NFL players ever. He had a long, illustrious career at Green Bay. I don't even think I have to give him an introduction. Many of you know that. So if you get an opportunity, definitely consider writing Mr. Paul Hornung. He is a definite, you know, Hall of Famer that you would want to add to your collection. So, got one more here from Eugene, Oregon, and I'm almost positive I know who it is. And it is going to be another NFL Hall of Famer. And it is. And this is Mr. Dan Fouts on 1, 2, 3, and 4. I absolutely love this set right here. This set is cool. I'll talk a little bit about the set here in a minute, but wow. Thank you, Mr. Fouts. If some of the younger viewers don't know who Dan Fouts is, he is the greatest quarterback the San Diego Chargers have ever had. And hands down, no discussion. Oh wait, Ryan Leaf. I'm sorry. I'm kidding, guys. If any of you guys don't know who Ryan Leaf is, yeah, that's a story in itself. You could go on for days about that, but just Google the name Ryan Leaf football and you'll have plenty of stories to read about him. But San Diego Chargers, one of the greatest quarterbacks ever, you know, to play the game. Very underrated, you know, didn't have all the Super Bowl rings that Terry Bradshaw, Tom Brady, Joe Montana, and those guys have, but equally one of the best passers the game has ever seen. Now, these Hall of Fame Pinnacle cards are absolutely cool, but I want to talk a little bit about the two cards on this side. This card is from the Broadcaster set, from Pro Set. You can see the CBS Sports logo up there in the corner. And I should mention that Dan was on the TV broadcast for many, many years. He since is retired, and there he is, you know, with the CBS days. But this set, yeah, he played 15 years as a pro. 254 touchdowns. From 1973 to 1987. Holds 42 club records. That is crazy. So, pretty safe to say that he's not going to have his record surpassed, not in San Diego. And especially since they're talking that the Chargers are going to move, it's pretty safe to say that his records will forever stay, you know, now that the team possibly can relocate. But played his college football at the University of Oregon, I believe. Yes, University of Oregon, where, you know, that's where this was postmarked from, so he retired, you know, obviously in the Oregon area. But pretty cool to add that. Now this card is even cooler, and if you look at the bottom here, Tombstone Pizza. I remember back in the 90s when Tombstone had a promotion going with classic quarterbacks, and if you bought a frozen pizza, you got one of these cards. And I want to say, like some of the other food promotions that they did back then, like Oreo cookies and, you know, Hillshire Farms sausage and stuff like that. Notice this is all unhealthy food, by the way, that these promotions were with. And if you sent in a certain amount of UPC symbols from your frozen pizza, you got the whole 12 card set. And I might dig that set out and just go through it with you guys and kind of show off who's in the set, because it's only 12 cards. It's you know, but it's just a really cool design of a card. You know, I feel like the early days of Photoshop were in use there, you know, when they did this card. And, you know, this is just a really, really cool card. I've always loved this design, and maybe it's a nostalgia thing, only because it brings me back to me being a young growing boy in my early teens, you know, rifling down frozen pizzas with Tombstone pizzas, you know, not a big pizza by any manner. So, you know, as a growing young boy, I probably made my mom buy a pizza or two just so I could get these cards. Oh, another food that I can remember is you used to get them in your Cracker Jacks too in the early 90s. Again, not so healthy a food, but you used to get trading cards. So, I guess you could say that my parents promoted bad eating habits for me when I was a kid, because they went out and bought me a bunch of junk food that had trading cards in it, but they also promoted a hobby. But also, I was an athlete back then, so I burned off the calories a lot easier than I do in my mid-30s, let's put it that way. So I was a growing boy, but as you can hear, my phone is ringing, so I am going to cut this video short and talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.